Following a heart-wrenching breakup, Melissa made the decision to release the past, which included the exquisite ring her ex had given her. Laden with sorrow, she entered a renowned jeweler's shop, hoping to part ways with the ring and perhaps receive some compensation. Mr. Harris, the man behind the counter, gasped as he looked up at Melissa. "Wait here, I'll be right back," he uttered before disappearing into a back room, taking the ring with him. Left alone, Melissa felt a tinge of confusion at the jeweler's reaction, unaware of the shocking revelation awaiting her. Minutes later, she heard footsteps coming closer and closer until he finally reappeared on the doorstep again. "Miss Melissa, I hope you don't mind, but I have to ask you a personal question," he said, looking her right in the eyes with a very serious look on his face, almost strict even. "My ex-boyfriend gave it to me a few years ago," she replied, explaining that they weren't together anymore, and she thought it was time to get rid of the ring. "Very well, I see," Mr. Harris replied as he scratched his head. "Do you happen to know where he got this ring?" he asked, carefully formulating his question. Melissa shook her head and told him she had always assumed he had bought it at a jewelry store. Suddenly, she heard Mr. Harris say, "Thank you so much for coming right away. That's her right there." She was surprised, and she didn't understand what was happening for a moment, and then she finally noticed the man in the police suit. "Ma'am, I'm afraid you have to come to the station with me." Melissa couldn't believe what she was hearing. "What? Me? Why? I haven't done anything," she exclaimed. However, the officer wouldn't listen to her, and he was very insistent. "And for clarification, I am not arresting you yet. I am just taking you to the station to ask you some questions. If you can prove you haven't done anything wrong, we will let you go. But you're going to have to convince us all if you want that to happen." Melissa's eyes filled with tears as she followed the cop to his car and took a place in the back seat. The officer suddenly said, "We're here," and he turned off the car engine. Melissa looked out of the window, and she saw that they had arrived at the police station. She looked around the room, feeling nervous and not knowing what to expect. She followed the rules and the law, and she had never even gotten so much as a parking ticket. The man said, "Hi, Melissa, I am Officer Davis. I see you've already met my colleague, Officer Johnson. Now, I want you to tell us about that ring." "The ring?" Melissa asked, full of disbelief. "What about the ring? My ex-boyfriend gave it to me right before he cheated on me with my best friend. I still haven't forgiven either of them for it, and to be honest, I don't think I ever will." "When did he give it to you? Do you know where he bought it?" he asked Melissa. She said, "No, I have no idea. He never told me, and I never cared enough to ask. Can someone please tell me what is going on?" "The ring you possess isn't just any ordinary piece of jewelry." Melissa leaned forward, her anxiety evident. "What do you mean?" "That ring, Melissa, is an artifact with deep historical roots. It's not just valuable because of the gems or the metal, but because of its history. The reason we're involved is that this ring was reported stolen from the Metropolitan Museum 2 years ago." Melissa's heart raced. "Stolen? But how did it end up with me?" she stammered. "Yes, but let me be clear. We don't believe you had any part in the theft. Your reactions, your genuine confusion, it all points to your innocence. However, we need to find out how this ring ended up in your possession. It's crucial to solve this mystery and bring the real culprits to justice." Melissa nodded, determined to help in any way she could. Melissa hesitated, then began recounting certain incidents. There were times when Steve would disappear without explanation. He had a small collection of antiques, always vague about their origins. Gathering her courage, Melissa looked the officers in the eyes. "I think Steve knows more than he ever let on. We need a confession, something concrete," Officer Johnson stated. "What if we set up a meeting, wire Melissa, get her to talk to Steve, and see if he spills anything?" Melissa felt a whirlwind of emotions. The thought of facing Steve, especially under these circumstances, was daunting, but she knew the importance of the situation. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "I'll do it." The officers gathered around Melissa, maps and communication devices spread out on the table. "We'll have officers stationed outside and inside the venue. With trembling fingers, Melissa typed out a message to Steve. "Hey, it's been a while. Fancy catching up over a drink?" It didn't take long. Almost immediately, her phone buzzed with a new message. "Mel, I've been thinking about you. Would love to catch up." Melissa could sense Steve's enthusiasm even through the text. It was clear he was eager, maybe even hopeful, about their reunion. The dim lighting of Al's cast a nostalgic glow as Melissa spotted Steve at the bar. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the weight of the situation faded. Melissa smiled, her heart pounding not from affection, but from the gravity of her mission. They chatted about work, friends, and the latest movies, with Melissa laughing at his jokes and sharing stories, all the while playing the part of the interested ex-girlfriend. In their covered positions, the officers listened to every word exchanged between the pair. The earpiece relayed the conversation with crystal clarity. As the evening wore on, Melissa began to artfully steer the conversation. "Remember the gifts we used to give each other, like that beautiful ring you gave me," she said, her voice casual. Steve's eyes flickered briefly, but he responded, "Ah, yes, that was a special one." Melissa probed further. "Where did you find such a unique piece?" "It's a long story," he began, his guard lowering. "Melissa," he began, his voice shaky. "It's not as simple as just buying it from a store. I didn't buy it. I took it." His eyes met Melissa's, filled with a mix of regret and desperation. "It was a mistake, a moment of madness. I thought it would impress you, show you how much I cared." He looked down, waiting for her reaction. But before Melissa could respond, the calm ambience of the bar was shattered. The doors burst open with a loud bang, causing other patrons to turn in shock. "Steve Tom Thompson, you're under arrest," Officer Davis declared, handcuffing him. The bar was filled with murmurs and gasps as Steve, still in shock, was led away, realizing the gravity of his confession. Inside the stark, cold interrogation room at the police station, Steve sat across from Officers Davis and Johnson. "It was years ago," he began, his voice shaky. "I thought the ring would be my ticket to a better life." He detailed the planning, the execution, and the aftermath of the theft. Back in the present, Steve's eyes glistened with tears. "I never imagined the weight this ring would carry," he admitted, his voice choked with emotion. The courtroom overflowed as Steve's trial came to an end. The evidence stacked against him, particularly his admission of guilt, left no room for doubt. Steve received a verdict of theft and was sentenced to several years behind bars. Refusing to allow the past to dictate her future, Melissa resolved to forge ahead. She started therapy, embracing the opportunity for self-discovery and growth. Melissa seized the chance to pursue activities she had long desired to try. Her life as a single woman blossomed into an exciting adventure, brimming with fresh experiences and newfound freedoms.